Hello, this is Ben from Web Service Development, and in this video we're going to be covering the English version of Wsd Invoice Cloud. And in this video we're going to be using a hypothetical situation where a hypothetical company called Inverse Multitasking Technologies in New York asked us, Web Service Development, to make a registration form for them. So in this story they say, hey, Web Service Development, that's a very nice registration form that you have for your Invoice Cloud registration. Could you make one for us? And then we can talk with them, and we kind of give them some rough numbers of the HTML, and the part you can see isn't that bad, so about $500. For customized emails templates, those will be about $200 a piece. For the payment and the processing side, it's going to be the costly part, so we'll ask for about $3,000 or more for that. And then for testing, for fringe cases, and we need to hire more people and subcontract that out. So that would be about $2,000. And they say about, okay, that sounds reasonable. That sounds within our budget. So can you go ahead and send us a quote? And this is where Invoice Cloud comes in. So we go ahead to our sales account and we sign in. And we go over and create a quote, and we go into drafts, and then we want to go ahead and send a quotation to Inverse Multitasking Technologies, and this is put in by the administrator of the service. And then for the subject, it's a I guess it's not front end or back end. Either way, it's a service registration form. And since we already have the Excel and cover that, we'll go ahead and just drag and drop that into here, and the final cost will be about $6,100. And so since we've already discussed this in the email, we'll go ahead and send this over to them. And in another browser, we have their account queued up, so we'll go ahead and log in as them. And so here they first receive the quotation, and if everything is checked out, and since we already discussed this in email in this hypothetical situation, there shouldn't be any corrections, but if you want to have the option, you can go ahead and ask them, you can return the quotation, ask for changes to certain prices or certain quantities, and then have them send it back to you. In this case, since we're ready to go, we want to go ahead and move it over to order preparation. So in order preparation, we go ahead and prepare this. So before we actually send the purchase order, we have one more chance to look it over and say, is everything good? Could we clear it with accounting? Do we need to clear it with Jenny and HR? And so once everything is checked out, $6,010, we need it for, they need the registration form and they're willing to pay for it. So, okay, let's go ahead and send the purchase order. So they go ahead and send the purchase order. Are you sure you want to? Okay. Now, once they sent the purchase order, the ball is back in the seller to say, okay, we've received the purchase order. Is the pricing for this? Is it going to cost us more? Was there something that we didn't anticipate? If we need to back out now, there is the option to go ahead and cancel the order from the side of the seller and just say this isn't reasonable from what we predicted or what happened. We're going to, our supplies didn't last, or our designers and programmers ended up being busy with a more higher priority project, but since in this case everything is okay, we're going to go ahead and get this ready for shipping. So once it's ready for shipping, you've agreed to the price, you've agreed to the order, and this is where the actual service is fulfilled. So this is where you create the service, send it live, test it out, send it to them, and make sure that they've received and confirmed it. And so once they've received and confirmed it, it's time for the payment. So we'll go ahead and move this back to the drafts. And once we do that, it'll be an invoice because we've gone from a quotation to a purchase order to an invoice. And in the invoice, the change here is that we have the option of adding to a bank transfer or payment method. So in Japan, unfortunately, everything is still done with good old-fashioned bank transfers. And so that's how most of the payments are handled. In this state, when it's an invoice, you have one more chance to edit and look everything over. So in the case of maybe they only needed 2 customized email templates overall, we can go ahead and change that down to 2, and the price changes from $6,100 to $5,900. So we can say, okay, everything's good, everything is set. We can go ahead and send them this invoice. So once the invoice is sent, then they have the option to come and get it, and if everything looks correct, okay, indeed, the number of customized emails has been cut down from 3 to 2. That looks correct. If there's any other changes, like, hey, this was wrong bank account or something like that, you still have the option to return this and say, hey, can you fix the invoice? Can you fix these aspects of this invoice? And then have them resend it back to you. But since, again, in this hypothetical situation, everything is okay, everything is confirmed, so we go ahead and confirm this, and then this is over to accounting to make sure that they can get the payment done. So once the account once the payment has been made and they've done the transfer and everything like that, you can go ahead and say, okay, we've made the payment, and go here and then go ahead and send them a email. So we sent the payment. And then back to the supplier side, we now have a new notification that says, with respect to this invoice, that says, hey, we sent the payment. So we can go through our bank books, we can double check that the payment has been made, that there's any corrections, and if that's all good and dandy, then we can go ahead and move this to deposited to say that yes, this has indeed been paid. And from there, once it's been paid and both parties have been confirmed, it's okay to move this into storage, and that completes the transaction. So this kind of just shows the how Wsd Invoice Cloud covers everything from quotations to purchase orders to invoices, and then makes sure that everything at each step of the way has been confirmed and solid, so that there's really no guesswork between both parties of the transaction to make sure every aspect of the payment has been covered and changed and recorded to ensure that there is no guesswork between both parties. So this is the introduction to the English version of Wsd Invoice Cloud. My name is Ben, and thank you for watching.